And let's talk a little bit about that for people who might not know what it is. And I heard some sentiment that it's not as standardized as people on the outside looking in might think.
Well, the charts themselves, everybody has a different style of writing a number chart. The number system is you're always in the key of 1. So if you're in a major key, there's a whole debate about minor keys. But if you're in a major key, then if you're in the key of C, C is 1. And you go up the scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B is 1 through 7. 1, 2 minors, a D minor, 3 minor, 3 diminished, flat 3 diminished, 2 minor, 7 flat 5. Any extension on it follows normal harmonic rules. You just replace a letter with a number. And the reason it was developed is that singers don't always sing in the key they tell you they're going to sing in.
Right. Yeah.
They change. Like, can we just do, and there's nothing harder than looking at an A and playing an A flat.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's always what it is. Can we just go down a half step? So you're always in 1. And so for us that have done this for so long, we've learned to think intervallically, and once we establish what key we're in, we just know 6, 7, 5, 3, 2, whatever. It's just like second nature to us, The difference is that I might write a chart, when I write a number chart, I write 4 bars with a dot, 4 bars, 4 bars with a dot, 4 bars. I write repeats, first endings. I mean, I write it like a normal, like I would learn to read charts, and other guys do it other ways.
Right.
I like
some
repeats.
people
Guys
do
it straight
8
down.
bars across in a line. Some do 4 in a line.
Right, 4 in a line with a big space on the side.
Clayton Ivey does 17 bars until he reaches the edge. And
it's like curving down. Right?
And there's different symbols for like staccato, short chord, held, fermata.
A lot of people have different short
when it gets jazzy or when it's. When you have to write unison lines, that's where it to me it falls
if there's
apart
too much written, it ceases to be practical to
Right, that's right.
Yeah, I remember being on a session and there was like a David Foster song or something, and and it went into all this,
Yeah, it's like just write the chords
flat 3 over flat 7.
Yes.
Just there comes a point where it ceases to make any sense. Because it was designed for country music, which is very diatonic. Traditionally music.
Pretty simple.
But it is great for modulations. I mean, I love
up and
that
down,
idea. It was like, oh man, we're just there.
On that, it's very diatonic music, and on that thought, our chord extensions, or let me put this a different way, I've read a lot that chord extensions, especially anything jazzy, is not really welcome in Nashville culture. Has that changed at all with Nashville now being a hub not just for country but for many other styles of music as
I
well?
would say yes. I mean, it depends on the record. It depends on the
It
artist.
really
Exactly.
depends on the artist and the
record,
record. Traditional country, if you're doing a real traditional country record, there may not be much call for
You're not going
it.
to play a lot of jazz chords on most.
I could say
Country
one
pop
thing
stuff.
about perception of Nashville, which was interesting. When I moved here, people were like, "Do not play jazz."
Don't
Being a
tap
jazz
into
piano, but and you're a jazz guy too, and so I was like, "You liar." So I was like, "No, I mean, I'm just gonna do what I do."
Yeah.
And so the perception is that you can't play country because you play jazz, or vice versa. Some of the country players are like the baddest jazz players that you'd ever want to meet. You know what I mean? So the perception of a Nashville musician outside, I think,
I had a different
they're
experience.
really high level.
Oh, extremely. But I was given the advice when I moved here. I moved here in '86 by a guy who had lived here before, who said, "Don't lead with that stuff," because he knew I could do all that. He said, "If you want to go do this and be a session player there, learn that. Like, show the respect." Which I don't think contradicts what you're saying, but I was given this specific advice, like, learn how to do this, show the respect to the music and the artists by committing to that, and eventually there'll come a time when you can do whatever the hell you want, which has occurred, but I took that advice to heart.
Song in the session.
And I learned to play country music on the piano. I learned what it meant to play rhythm, and and it served me really well, and then opportunities come, but I think, and I know players who could easily thrive in any situation, country situation, who somewhere along the line, that's what they led with, and then they got branded, and they never got the calls. They would never get the mainstream country calls, because oh no, that guy's a jazz player, he's not, So you're totally right about perception, and I think that has shifted a lot in the past decade.
I think it's not just that the music changes. I think that I look at what Matt has done for country piano, and you change the whole in my opinion, you changed the whole approach to how piano approaches country, particularly ballads, and broadened the genre because of what you could bring to the piano part in what was a country artist and a country record, but broadened the music because of that knowledge.
See, Bill Evans is country. Nobody knew that. It's true though. You can be sneaky. I mean, there's ways to bring it in. I mean, that's the harmonic thing. That's where that comes from. Yeah. But you just gotta.
Everybody points at Walk Away Joe, but that was one of the first really successful records where the piano player sort of took over the role of what is traditionally an acoustic guitar part. I think it's true of all great session players, not just keyboard players, but the great guitar players, the great every instrument are players who bring to the session a broad knowledge, but also that sensibility. How am I trying to say? I often said you have to be a great player. You have to be a really good player to do this for a living, but it's not. In my opinion, it's not the number one thing you have to be a session musician. You have to have the ears. You have to. I mean, I think I said this to you earlier. If it was important, it was most important that you be the greatest player on your instrument. I'd have been gone decades ago because I was in the same town as this guy, and Jarvis, and people with craftsmanship and artistry on their instruments.
There's a thing I think that we all do where stylistically, whatever style we're playing, we have this ability to disseminate what's really important to know about this particular style of music. Because we have
and each individual artist, you have to listen.
Make it successfully. That's what we all do.
You go into a room with an artist, and
for me, it was tough coming here because I didn't grow up on country music. I mean, I love Bruce Hornsby and Jerry Lee Lewis, and but so I had to who are you talking about? Because I don't know, So it was having to relearn, but I think just you guys who've been doing it longer, you just have a better pool to draw on. It's like any style of music, if you grew up playing funk or whatever, it's just like that's ingrained in you. So I think the Nashville guys and the country thing, I mean, you guys just have such amazing
Did any
history.
of us in this room come up in country?
No,
I didn't. I know I didn't. I was in R&B bands and soul bands. Blues bands was all I was ever in. I was always in the blues.
That's part of what you are. I mean, I think that's the overall thing. It's like, for me, it's like, for me, the biggest thing for me as I grow as a musician is, and I tell students, is make learning your biggest reward, because your money's going to go up and down, up and down. So the more I can learn, I'm really into that, like growing as a player, as a musician, learning things. And I think if that's your focus, then you're going to go far, because it's really about.
It just occurs to me too that another skill that I've really learned is really important for a session player is this saying yes. Mm-hmm. It's like, because my first handful of years here, I didn't know how to really play. I didn't know how to play like Jerry Lee, but in a way that was appropriate and and right, and so just developing this fortitude for saying, oh yeah, I know how to do that, and then just because it's amazing what your skill set is and your willingness to go for something, and just this knowledge that the people who are hiring you, they have expectations that you're going to, for the most part, that you're going to do great. Right. So that's been a tremendous tool for me, and that actually living in LA really brought that home for me. I got so many opportunities to do shit I had no idea how to do, and just say, I know exactly how to do that.
And it's not just being able to play all these different things. I mean, we're all probably kind of sponges in that we can hear all sorts of things and absorb and find our way around in them. But I think it's also that you have respect for all the different kinds of music. I didn't come to country naturally, but I don't feel like I ever played down to country. And I don't think Country's really hard.
Like a 3/4 swing ballad at a slow tempo. I mean that's
bloody hard.
that is not for the faint of heart. Like that is
What's
heavy.
hard about it? Because this is fascinating.
What's hard about it is the goal, and what guys like Pig Robbins could do is make boom, ding, 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 feel as absolutely relaxed as it could be, and not feel like it's dragging, and not feel like it's like he's. I mean, it's a pocket. It's this place right in the center, and it's this like. It's this adjustment of your body clock to find, like, to not wish it were here, and not, but to recognize this is exactly where it is, and this is where I'm committing to this, and that, I mean, that stuff is hard.
And always be anchored or tied to the drummer, the bass player,
Absolutely.
the guitar player. You are a
and
part of a
contributing.
whole.
You're in the rhythm section, so you're playing rhythm. So if you're not helping, you're hurting, and I mean that's and I gotta say. The thing about, and they're great players in LA, but the thing about this place and the rhythm sections and guys like Eddie Bears, and I mean the time it's like there's no better training ground for learning to have a good time.
Well, I think it was tradition going back to even the guys like Floyd Kramer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all of the, the original sort of A-Team of, and Harold Bradley and all those guys. I mean, those guys, that's incredible records they made.
Getting to play with Larry London is way better than practicing to a
Right?
metronome.
Yeah. Yeah, I get to do a handful of those too before he left us.